Mm. Okay, I am Shelly. I'm one of the board members of Florida End-of-Life Doula Association, and tonight it's May 7th at about 5:30, 5:36, and we are going to be talking about legacy work right here. So, what seeds have you planted, and what is your legacy? So one of the things that we talk about a lot, especially as doulas, is why is legacy work so important? And legacy really helps us to reflect on who has shaped our lives, whether it's family, friends, coworkers, pets, what areas of our life did they shape them, whether it's, early childhood, adolescence, through your adult years, older years, all of that. What events we've experienced that have impacted our lives in such profound ways, weddings, anything, inviting more family in, having children, not having children, big, huge events. What is the most important thing that you feel called to share with others as well? So if you do have something to give back, especially in a humanitarian way. And then, of course, reflecting on our life. While we dive into legacy work, we are blessed with the ability to process and go through our life review. And then questions that we ask ourselves as we're planting our legacy seeds is, who am I? What am I leaving behind? What struggles have I endured? What have I learned from them? And what can others learn from my experience? When we talk about what seeds we've planted as we've lived as well, how do you specifically want to be remembered? And how do you think other people will remember you, especially, if you think other people might remember you differently than what you had originally intended? Are you okay with that? Or maybe you have things that you need to shift and change with your personal legacy work. And then lastly, how do you plan on sharing your legacy with others as well? We will stop sharing. So, does anybody have any thoughts about how you'd like to share legacy, anything that you've planned or something you've helped somebody with? Any ideas? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess for myself, I've always liked writing, and I haven't yet, but if I could see writing something or a series of letters sometimes, I have a granddaughter that's 4 years old, and who knows, how old she'll be when I pass away. But I've always liked the idea of leaving a letter behind for her to read at some point in her life. So
Yeah.
I think, although I haven't done it, that's what I'd be called to do.
Oh, that's beautiful. I've heard of people doing emails too, that like they open at like certain ages as well.
Yeah,
Like having a collection, like in a scrapbook or like any letters in general, if it's the physical act of writing.
yeah.
Like that's beautiful.
And when I do my doula work, I guess that's one of the questions I always ask. Do you have any unshared communication that I could help you with?
Right.
So, sometimes they're not able to write letters themselves because they're, whatever, bedbound or unable to. So, for myself, that's been one thing I've always tried to remember to do.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Dan. Thank you. Sally?
Yeah, I can piggyback along with what Diane just said. Yeah, I also like to write, but I haven't been motivated to do it. I have found a couple of companies. One of them is No Story Lost, and they put a book together. And I've got them as a referral source for clients. And I also am doing one for myself called Storyworth. And every week they send you a prompt for a year, and then they'll put a book together. And it's really been motivating for me because, again, the whole idea of writing my life story, that's way too much, way, way too much. But a prompt every week is doable. And they're cute little prompts. And so I'm trying to do that.
Beautiful.
Sally, can you give an example of one of the prompts they might have give you?
Yeah, I think the most recent one was, I mean, simple things like what department store did you go shop at when you were young? You know, what did you like? What department store did you like best? And you can actually pick prompts. You know, you can go to their website and you can pick something if you don't like the one they send you.
That's good. We don't have any memories of that one or something. Okay, thanks.
For those that are just joining, so Zan, I see you. We're talking about legacy work and ways that we'd like to be sharing them, whether it's our legacy or something that maybe you've helped somebody with bringing out legacy work. I recently talked to a woman about, I think she's in her mid 70s and she had never thought about legacy work before. And I said, well, what's something that you would want to lead to other people? She said, I want to see people be more positive. Like everyone's very negative and my goal is to make them smiling and happy. And I said, well, what kind of things do you usually do? Like, how would you want to share that? Like, you could put in a video, like funny little things of like keeping your spirits up. Or, some people might feel called to like make a meditation or something like that. Put something in like a fun, you can make canvas and prints and stuff. You can have other companies do it, make a t-shirt. There's a guy actually in St. Pete that his son passed away, I think. And he has this happiness evolution and he got these like very long template like metal plates of like happiness and he goes around, he shares his book and he shares that template with people and they can go purchase it. It's very cool. Yeah.
We do a lot of letters. We call them letters from the grave with our estate planning. And we always recommend that people write some type of letter because a lot of people are under the fallacy of the old video things for the wills and different stuff like that. So we actually take them through a letter writing process to be able to either connect with them, share something they didn't want to say in person to them, or explain something that they might not have wanted others to know while they were still alive at the same time. So for me, I'm not a huge writer, but my goal is to bring more of a comfort and peace. And I would like my legacy to be just that I'm helping people transition peacefully and without all of the anger and animosity and the things that we see quite often when people are suffering and going through death. I just want to bring it back to the way it used to be, to where the families are all involved, every level is there, and it becomes more of a peaceful, happy thing versus something so stressful and negative that people tend to find it.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, so I could share. I really like making PowerPoints and turning them into videos and doing story. I probably have like 50 different ones on my computer that I've either started or actually used. And but the last thing I have been moved to do is do my family ones because I'm always busy with my next work project. And in fact, I'm doing one tomorrow, which I worked on today. But yeah, I have so many pictures and little videos and things in my phone, and I do know how to turn them into a little film and turn that into a YouTube, which could be shared. So I just like, what's keeping me from doing it? There's always something else on my list. One thing that might be keeping me from doing it is, division in my family. Suzanne talks about like, oh, all the generations getting together and how nice, but there's a lot of angst among certain people in my family, and everybody isn't talking to everybody else. And so maybe that's a little block that I'm having. But then, my legacy could be to come up with something that would be unifying and a message that that they could see me talking, like, I just turn on my Zoom and hit record and tell stories. So, I think it'd be really good to put that together, because my thing is like, don't you dare fight after I'm gone. Everybody get together. Come on, people, now smile on each other. That one. Because that was my little flower childy favorite song, to go to a wedding or a funeral and hear. So anyway, there's a lot. But I think it'd be fun to actually pair up and support each other in doing these and just sort of sharing them with each other or something. You know, I think it'd be nice to have a little buddy system so that we'd have people to touch base with and get feedback and just share, really. So that's my idea.
It's a good idea. Does
Well,
anybody else have anything to share?
yeah, hi, how are you? So I'm not an end-of-life doula yet. And I don't want to take up your meeting to go into all of that, but it kind of, strangely enough, kind of showed up on my Facebook feed a couple of months ago. And my jaw dropped because I didn't know there was such a thing. And I thought, oh my God, so I went down the rabbit hole. And it was like my soul lit up. And I had just come off of helping 2 friends transition in hospice. And one I found ready to pass away at home. So I managed to get him into hospice where he was at least kept comfortable. And then the second one, I went there at his a day before he had passed to bring him his book that he had written, so that I could remind him of like the impact that he had made and how an amazing soul he was. But I remember both times leaving hospice and going, I don't want to leave. You know, I saw other people in other rooms and I just kind of was like, is it appropriate for me to go in and hold their hand? I don't know if I can do that. But I just felt like I didn't want to go. I was like, oh my God, it felt so good to be in that space. And then also for my dad as well, and my father-in-law. And just remembering all the different losses that I had experienced, and it kind of all came back and going, well, no wonder you had all these losses, my own son, and just things, friends being murdered and suicide. I mean, there's so much. And my sister said, I don't know why you experienced so much. And I went, now I know why. And so I find myself then looking at the end-of-life doula, and I thought, okay, I'm kind of one of those, oh, squirrel, let me go get a net. And then I'm off and running on something else. And then I burn out and go, well, that's not it. So I really didn't want to jump into this because I was like, okay, that was just another squirrel episode. But then as I just kind of let it sit with me for a while, I thought, well, if I did that, who would I be in that process? What would I be able to provide? And what came to me was legacy work. Because I am a writer and I'm a speaker and I'm an actress and I've done 30 years of videos and you name it, you know, that whole world. I got so excited. I thought, oh my God, life in film. It's like, oh, people's lives. And I got all excited again. And there's the net and there's the squirrel. And, and I went off running to the zoo. And, but I thought, no, don't do that, because again, how are you going to make a living at that? And is it okay to make a living doing that? I mean, are you capitalizing on someone else's grief? I really struggle with that. And then I saw your post or your little beautiful Canva ad for thing, whatever it might be, on doula on your page. And I was like, okay, all right, I need to plug in and really see what this is about. And I think what I was hearing was everybody else's ideas of like, what would my legacy be? And I think that's kind of where I am now. Is I've had such a successful career that seems to be kind of, feels like it's winding down, but I think it's just asking for a redirect. And this is just really speaking to me. And I'm just not sure how I can, I'm cautiously moving forward, because although it speaks to my heart, I also have to be practical in that, I struggle with, can I make money on someone else's really difficult journey? So I'm glad I plugged into this. Because I've never shared it with anybody other than my husband. And everybody else is like, oh, don't do it. It's too hard on you. You'll be too emotionally distraught. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think it's a gift. And yeah, and I was finding myself today doing so much for so many other people. And I felt my guides go, because that's really what you're here to do. And I went, okay. And then my clock went 5:33 and I'm like, I'm missing the meeting. So that's why I'm here. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. So if anybody has insight that they could share, or anything, I would appreciate it, but I don't want to take away from your normal month-to-month meeting, and just needed to, I don't know, voice it. Thank you.
No, that's beautiful. Thank you. I don't think that you're capitalizing on people's pain. I know Shanti's like, I'm gonna jump into. She's like ready, like, no, you can do it. A way that you can look at it, because there's like how many thousands of ways to look at it, is it's an equal energy exchange. So you have given something that is very beautiful, is very heart-centered and soul-centered to another person. And you are getting something back, whether that's from the universe, from whatever intention is, whatever you want to call that. There's, like I said, thousands of ways to do this. But it's, your time is valuable. Like, I have children I have to feed, that want to go do things. Loads of people have different things. We get sick and you have to pay for those things. So it's just, it's like going any other job that you would have, like, you're going to be compensated for your time. I don't look at it as any different or capitalizing on a person's pain. And a lot of times people
I
have,
don't feel that way. I just,
Yeah.
I'm worried about that being,
right.
you know, it's like, I don't feel like I would be, but it's kind of one of those, it's one of those things that I would just give it for free because it has so much value.
Right.
So anyway.
There are people who do that. I mean, there are people who do that, and volunteer. Yeah. And some people do sliding scales too. So you can meet the needs of different people where you feel called to. If they're not able to do it, that's fine too. Shanti, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to suggest we give everyone a chance to say something and then move into giving some responses, because I also have some responses. But how about we still got Tracy and Ashley we could hear from.
So I'm a little ignorant when it comes to legacy projects. I've never actually done them. I've done a ton of like memorial projects, oftentimes like with family members of somebody that's dying, but I've just never done legacy projects, and it's never really come across my lap to do one. So I'm taking notes, and I'm hoping to like get inspired to learn and jump in. And I feel like I should do one myself so that when I'm out in the field, I kind of have my bearings, right?
The hardest one to do is yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name's Ashley. This is the first call I've joined. I currently work in hospice. Officially worked in hospice for about a year. And then before that, I was a hospice volunteer. So I too, just a few months ago, found out that end-of-life doula was a thing. And I was like, this is what I want to be doing. None of the super high clinical, more of the spiritual, emotional grief support aspect of things. And I actually signed up for a program at, I believe, University of Vermont that starts in August. So I'm super excited about that. I got invited to this call, so thank you for having me. And as far as legacy, I am still working through that. Part of my homework when I first started in hospice was to go through some legacy work. So that's ever evolving and ever changing for me. So thank you again for having me.
Great. Yeah, so I've been hearing more and more and on many fronts about how story is everything. Sharing a story, being touched by a story, living in a story, just storytelling. And I think that's a lot of what legacy involves. And, the beauty of it is, well, okay, we have advanced directives, which are important. That's the legal document. But advanced care planning is sort of more holistic, like, who are you and what do you want and how do you like things to be? And, so it can lead into some of these personal questions about exploring a person's life. And then, so I think that, yeah, I think there's so much for us to be inspired to help others with. And as far as the idea about money, some people are like, oh, they hate it when doulas give it away for free. Well, I sure don't. Like, do it. everybody just put it out there and help people. And I think sliding scale is great because in the grief work, you know, in our society, my grief is my specialty, and the poor people who are struggling and suffering the most need it the most. And so I'm happy to help anyone I can help. But for the people who can pay, I charge nicely, you know, can be $100 an hour, or a class is, you know, 200 to 350 for just 4 lessons, for just four classes. I mean, you know, so you can just play with the numbers and just feel free to enjoy giving people the help and having them give what they can. And in one of my classes, I have a student who is tight on money. And so I'm like, well, I know that helping other people makes me happy. So I made a deal with her to do my 4-week class, just go volunteer for 12 hours. You know, and help someone. And it could be sitting on a park bench talking with an old lady, you know, holding her hand and loving on her dog, or it could be going to a nonprofit that's growing food or giving food or anything, just go volunteer. And that's nice, because sometimes when we're in grief, we just can't think about others and we can't pull it together to do anything for others, but it is helpful. It can be helpful to realize that you're not the only person in the world, and other people are struggling too. And so depending on what point in your grief you're at, or if you're at all able, but I think it helps people to kind of come out of themselves a little bit. So and I think what you're saying, Suzanne, is you're concerned about how others would view us. Is that kind of what you were saying? I mean,
No, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily, maybe that came out and it wasn't really honest, that statement, because it's not so much that, it's not what other people would think of me. That you learn to have a pretty hard exterior as an actress, you know, you can be beat up as much as possible. But it would be more of going to people who are, because I have some friends that are like stage 4 breast cancer. It's like they're just existing until, you know, whatever might happen. And to go to them and with something like this, to go to others who are something like this, I guess it's more of, how can you charge me when I'm really in a time of need to do something? That's just an internal struggle I think I have to work through, and it goes back to what Shelly was saying too, is recognizing that money is an exchange, right? As is anything. A hug is an exchange, a kiss is an exchange. And it's probably not, what's the word I'm looking for? That money doesn't make it a bad thing. Yeah, I guess is the shift of the mental shift on that one. That's just something I guess I have to work through.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the Doula Curious. See, we have 2 email lists. One is doulas who have been trained or in training, and one we call Doula Curious. So if you pop us your email, we'll put you on that list so that events that are going on, we can send you notices.
Put that in the Facebook group?
You could do that. Yeah, you could do it in the chat here. I'm the one who collects the addresses, so you can, your name, and also, we didn't talk about where in Florida we are. I guess we're all in Florida. But we could go around and share that. I'm in Gainesville.
I'm in Largo, Florida, Pinellas County.
I'm in West Palm Beach.
I'm in Parrish, Parkland, which is near Sarasota. I split between North Carolina and Florida.
I'm in Sarasota.
Ashley, what did you say?
Orlando.
Sally, what did you say?
Oh, Sarasota.
Suzanne Maureen, did I say the last name correctly? What did you say?
You did. It's St. Lucie County.
St. Lucie. Tracy? Okay, you put it there. Perfect.
Ormond Beach.
Love it. Made it easy.
What about you, Shelly?
I'm in Largo, Florida. It's like, I'm actually right on the line for Clearwater and Largo. I guess some people have heard of Clearwater. So yeah, pretty much Clearwater, Florida. Yeah. And there is lots of information for anybody who is doula curious in the Facebook group.
Mhm.
If you go in the group and you search, if you have any questions about like, you know, training or anything like that, there's loads and loads of suggestions from people that you can go on, look at, comment on, get extra information, whatever you're comfortable with too.
I sat in on the Inelda Open, like the introduction session. I sat in on that. It sounds like once you go through the training, you're kind of just on your own to figure it out, how to get yourself out there. But anyway, but the word legacy I don't want to take away from your focus for today, but it was the word legacy that really drew me in, because that's what I would like to focus on with helping others.
Yeah, what I found good about doing the training was that it gave me a whole sort of panoramic view of all the different aspects, and they could only touch on everything, you know, a little bit, but it gave me a lot of ideas of different directions that, you know, that we could take. So, yeah. What else?
I have a few that are like out of the box ones that nobody's really mentioned, not quite out of the box, but one is like, you know,
Home app. Oops,
you got robots talking.
I didn't say anything.
Was like recipes. Like I've got like I think 5 or 6 different cookbooks from my grandma that passed away. I saw one thing that was if you have a grave site, you put like the QR code. I don't know what the name of it is, and some people may have seen those, but you put the QR code on the grave site and you do it on your phone, and whatever video that you've linked to it. So it could be people dancing, it could be like a really sweet message or something that's just a voicemail, whatever it is that you can scan, and it kind of just stays with you and just everlasting little link imprint. I thought really cute out of the box kind of ways of sharing some legacy. Anybody else think of any others?
I think like my husband does a lot of research on genealogy, and I think how much of that, you know, sometimes it's trees that get shared, but really it's a real sharing of a lot of ancestors and stuff. So, you know, I was thinking too, somehow we could take these genealogy societies and yeah, you know, interject an idea that they created as like some sort of ongoing story or whatever to pass on to future generations. Because that's quite popular, it seems, these days. It's with the 23andMe and Ancestry and stuff. But rather than just names and birthplaces, there's got to be stories attached to some.
Ancestry actually will give you a story. When you put your information in, you can click on certain things and it'll populate stories for you based on general information, and then it'll also pull from your family history that you attach in there.
I think that's good. I didn't know that. I'm glad to hear that. But it's kind of like having AI to a story. I don't know. I can quite go with that one.
You know, I like the idea of using photos too. You know, I have lots of family photos, and I know there are creative ways to, you know, I don't know how to do them, but I know there are creative ways to put collages together with photos. And you know, in today's world, I have kids in their 30s, and they just have photos on their phone. They don't collect photos anymore. So I think photos are wonderful to maybe leave legacy, figure out some way to do it that way.
It's funny you mentioned that, Sally, because we had to go for the last one. We had to go print a bunch of stuff because it was just like you said, everything was in their phones and nothing was printed anywhere.
Yeah, it is funny you say that. A long time ago, I was going through all these boxes up in my grandma's attic, and I found a shoebox just full of old photos from her grandparents. And it was just like they were in perfect condition. And I was like, can I have these? And she's like, take them. And so I have my whole front room is just framed full of my ancestors from this box of photos. that my grandmother gave me. So I didn't even remember that. So yeah, I have photos, the actual photos.
I like how you're speaking about like getting stuff from people. My aunt had these huge, I don't know how big containers they are, full of awards and photos and magazines. I think my grandfather was in, and in there was like, I don't know how he preserved them, but they were 19 late 1930s to like 1960s, early 70s newspapers. Ones from like JFK assassination from World War II, and they're in pretty good condition. I just kind of went, "Ooh, this should go somewhere, not here in my house, but somewhere else." Because how many of these still like exist? I know there's quite a few, I'm sure, but they were in really good condition. It's crazy what you'll find. Let's see. Anything else? Anybody else could think of anything? Anything else? Maybe yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's one thing that some people do is, like you don't want to throw away all the clothes. Okay, dad's shirts, or, there's this thing of like, you just don't want to throw it away. So, people can take clothing and cut it and make quilts out of it, or some kind of tapestry, or if they have the skill to do stuff like that. And what is it, t-shirt cushions, like they make cushion covers out of kids t-shirts, or just fabric arts. And it helps with the grief if they just want to have it and have it as a memory and share it with the other members of the family or something like that. So I'm sure there are other sort of add-ons to that idea. Anybody, I don't know if anyone could think of any.
I have a stuffed animal. We made bears when my brothers and sisters passed away. We took, some of us had the same shirts or whatever, and we took that shirt and sent it to a designer. She made each one very unique for the surviving sibling that was going to receive it, and tied it back to the one that passed away and put their names on it and the bear and stuff. So they're pretty cool.
Yeah. So you've lost multiple siblings.
I have.
Wow.
I think that's part of one of the things that made me drawn to this too, is like Suzanne was saying, she's been surrounded by it. I have been surrounded by it myself for a very long time. Lots of family members, lots of close friends. Started when I was 15 years old. So it just kind of progressed over all these years. And even if it wasn't somebody close, I ended up sitting in the soup with them, so to speak, just because I have that calm. And at that time, I seemed to shine better at that time, which isn't a great thing to say, but it's just where I belong. So for me, it's easy to sit with them. I have two girlfriends right now that are riddled with cancer, and one is terminal. She has about another 3 to 4 weeks they're giving her. Of course, it's a guess, so it doesn't look great. But I think that's kind of what led me into this to begin with. And just like everybody else, it popped up and I was like, oh, that sounds like me. So I started looking into it a little bit more and more, and I definitely enjoy it. So I enjoy sitting with the people, getting their legacy out of them. I've sat with a lot of people that feel like they have no legacy, or they didn't have a big family. And those are really the challenging ones, because those are the ones that really have a story to tell. They don't have a big family, but they have all this stuff that they went through that they feel is nothing. But when you start collecting all that information, it becomes this huge picture, and they're like, wow, I did do something more than what I thought, and I had more than what I thought. So seeing the pleasure in them shine from what we give back is really neat to me. And I think Suzanne mentioned earlier, some people, get burnt out on it, but I think there's two people. There's the ones that get burnt out, and then there's the ones that kind of thrive on it, because it's bringing not happiness, but it's bringing more of a peace and calm to other people that just don't have it at that moment. So
Yeah, and the idea that we have to be somebody, amazing or rich or famous or something. Everybody has a legacy. If you like this presentation I'm planning on giving tomorrow, if you like grow gladiolas and enjoy cutting them and putting them in a vase or giving them to someone. That's part of your legacy. You know, it can be just something simple and lovely. So I have, you know, photos of gladiolas, beautiful colors, and you know, it's just, it can be very small, but also at the same time significant, you know, because it represents your joy of the beauty of the world, you know, and so yeah, it's not just rich and famous, highly accomplished PhD types.
Mhm. Suzanne
Um,
touched on something that really, yeah, it was really, I never put it into the words, but I find a tremendous amount of peace being able to hold that space of calm. Even when my dad was passing, surrounded by like 12 people, I'm very connected to spirit. And he came through very clear. He's like, I'm ready, let me go. And I walked in, I looked at my sister, and she just looked at me and she goes, uh-oh. What'd he say? I said, he's ready, we need to leave him. She's like, hands off, everybody, she's a nurse, hands off. And then he passed a few hours later. And it's just being able, I never really looked at it that way until you said it, Suzanne. It's just being able to be that one person in a space of calm, and holding that space for other people. And a friend of mine today just called, her husband had unexpectedly passed this morning, and it was like, okay, then I know what I need to be of service. And strangely enough, it brings me a tremendous amount of peace and joy and purpose that is not so self-focused. And yeah, so I guess there's a reason why I'm here, because this is what I'm supposed to do. And interesting enough, as I'm talking to you, I have this app that sends me messages a few times a day. And it just came through and it said, your career path is changing direction tonight to change your legacy. I kid you not. And I was like, okay. So anyway, I have to go get my daughter to volleyball, but I'm so glad I came on here, and thank you for allowing me to, you know, come into your meeting unexpectedly, and you added value to my evening. I am grateful to meet you, and I look forward to learning more from all of you. Thank you.
And it's your meeting too. Thanks so much for coming. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks.
I was going to share one more, or if you ever have to deal with or know anybody that is having a baby pass away in utero or right after, there is a nonprofit called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep that will send out a photographer, whoever will volunteer their time, and they will come to wherever they're at in the area and take pictures and various things for the family. So that's a good one too. And just in case you ever come across anyone has that scenario.
Yeah,
Diana?
speaking, I was gonna say, speaking of that, I heard a little YouTube TED talk or something from a doctor who had a call that a woman went into labor with triplets at week 21 or something, and there was no way, there was just no chance of them surviving. But the family was like, do everything, you know. And so he's like, what? You know, and he ended up just sharing with them what would actually happen, and how the very short lives of those babies would be not with mom's contact. It would just be crazy, you know. We know how CPR goes. And then eventually they agreed or decided that they would cradle and embrace their babies for the 22 minutes and the 40 minutes and the 35 minutes that they lived, but they got to hold them and feel them and feel their breath. And, you know, it was just so powerful that, and I think that our place in this society that is so death denying and death phobic, you know, is what makes it pretty special, I think, you know, to be able to help people with acceptance. Oh. Oops.
Yeah, it's very common as well. Like they'll keep the umbilical cords, which I know a lot of people will do that after they have babies anyway. But my mom lost her first child when he was 2 weeks old. He had just loads of different health issues, and she's got a box of things that she's kept, and very much. I mean, I was a child, and she kept his story alive for as much as she could. He has these things that happened with him, and we would go to the gravesite area not far from my grandparents, and we would go and do flowers and stuff, even just visiting. I mean, for somebody that hasn't been along very long on the earth, that's a nice way to remember that, just telling stories to all the family members, keeping that spirit alive.
One of the things of course, in the Jewish tradition, I was raised Jewish. I don't really know that much about it. I hate to embarrass to say, but my brother follows, like today is the 7th anniversary of our father's death, and he died in Sarasota. And my brother and I were both here with him. And so, you know, you light a candle every year. The yahrzeit candle is lit, and it's a special candle that burns all day. It's kind of a ritual that it's a nice, pleasant ritual. I don't do it, but he sends me a picture of the candle that he's burning at his place, and for our mother as well. Now that's not exactly I guess it is a legacy though, because it's a day of remembrance that we have every year for our father, our mother, or anybody who's passed away in the Jewish tradition.
When we
So
talk
is
about
that done on their anniversary, or is that done the same day for everybody?
So it's on the anniversary of their death, each person's death, individual day. So today, May 7th was the day when my father died. So yes.
So we talk about humans a lot. How about pets? I don't know if we have anybody here that does any pet um services or anything. My aunt definitely had all of her animals, like dog tags and things, on her keychain. I had a friend that did like a needlepoint of my dog that passed a couple years ago. That was just beautiful. I don't even know how she was able to do that with just a picture, and she just made this beautiful needlepoint, and she was doing this for everybody's animals at that time. Unbelievable. But it was a really sweet way that we could just kind of have with her ashes, and we're like, there she is, there's Rowan with her needlepoint.
We just had to put one of ours to sleep, and the company that actually came out, they prepare a whole box for you and stuff. You get a wooden box with their paw and their name engraved in it. Then they actually did their paw prints they did them here on the site, and they did them when they took her back, both. So you got ceramic feet prints and stuff of them. Then she was really short haired. They tried it anyway, and they cut hair, and they do this little thing. They put it in a little bottle, and it was very well thought out and laid out my other ones I just took to the vet, but this one actually came to the house, did tons of different little remembrance things for you. They send you cards. They actually have a picture of her face. They send you that a week or two later afterwards, after you get everything, and say, we're just remembering you and wanted to make sure, so it's a lot of nice little touches, but those are all little legacy things that, for the animal, that it was all part of her. They write a little story. If you tell them stuff, they'll write like a 3-4 paragraph little thing that goes in the frame also. So it was nice.
I've heard that veterinarians have a high rate of suicide, and I bet you it helps them too, to feel comforted in sharing in that way with you, Yeah.
So I just had to last June put my 15-year-old dog down. His name was Scooby. He was my baby. I had him since he was 12 weeks old. And then his sister, she's a Beagle Basset, so a bagel, as I like to call her. She just turned 15 I've had it on mute because she only barks when I get on a call and she was hungry, so I had to give her dinner. But anyway, so he had cancer, and it was crazy because I was going through all of my hospice training and watching him decline. So it was like I could put, some things together that I wouldn't have been able to put together before in a different perspective. So it was like I was able to apply the grief support I was learning in my own life for myself. But it was really hard, but the vet did do a little memorial. I have a whole memorial set up for him in my room, with his ashes, and it's so comforting. I say good morning to him every morning, but I saw my other dog, going through her own grief process because she had never known life without him. So she had a lot of separation anxiety, and it's, I thought about grief support with people that lose their pets. It brought a whole new perspective in that as well. And they do have even a pet grief support hotline. They gave me a pamphlet when he passed. And I even thought at that time, I was like, oh, I would even love to do something like that, for free or whatnot. But it's a big deal. And even when I was volunteering for hospice, I was taking care of a gentleman that had 5 cats. So I would go in, I would feed them, change their litter boxes, and he was so worried because those cats had been together since they were babies, and that was one of his big concerns. He did not want to give up his cats, and he was so worried about where they were going to go when he passed. But we have a great program in place for that. But pets are family. I've been fortunate so far where I think that was because I've been taking care of him since he was 15. So I really did look at him as my child, and it was hard, very hard.
I think we do have a few pet doulas in the group in Florida. I feel like we might. Do we have a few?
We have a collective. We just started a Sarasota area end-of-life doula collective in March, and one of our doulas is a pet. She does grief as well as other things. So the collective, that's one of the services we will offer. It's important, as you just said. People are very attached. When I had a pet, I was very attached to my pet and worried about what was going to happen to the pet if I die, that sort of thing. So I think it's really important.
And who is that, Sally?
Melanie Ellerkamp.
Okay. No.
I'll be doing my pet doula this fall. I think it starts in August.
Great. Nice.
Great.
There's another one named Carolina, who isn't a doula yet, but she's very into the pet thing. Yeah. Cool.
I'm sorry, I was out for a little bit, but is there a special training just for pets doulas? I guess it didn't, I took my training several years ago, so I'm sure it's advanced. The whole field has advanced since then.
Yeah.
The University
Suzanne,
of
which
Vermont offers one.
Okay.
That's the only one I've seen so far. I'm sure there's other ones, but that's what I registered for.
So my neighbor is has heart failure, and she's let's see, I think she's known for 8 years that she's going to need a heart transplant, and she's run through all the process she could with treatments and medications and everything, and she has a defibrillator that shocks her when her heart stops, and it happens on a regular basis, and it's just excruciating pain. It feels like crabs just seizing her and wakes her up, and it's just freaking her out, and it's really hard. So she ended up giving me a little video session of her experiences, and it's really beautiful, and just her insights and the things. She's got a really amazing spirit. Also, her sister had received a heart transplant before, and she supported her sister through her heart transplant, and now her sister is supporting her through this period. So I don't know what I want to say about that, except that it's just really amazing the different things people go through. And she had gone to she's waiting on her last test that she needs to get done before she'll actually be on the list and just ready for heart at any minute. But she's also in her 60s, which is anxiety producing because, you know, the older you are, I don't know, the harder it is. I forget what else I was going to say about it, but it's just such an honor to be able to work with people and hear their story. And that little video that she gave, I'm going to break it down into some little short clips and share those with her. I mean, I've shared the video with her back, but being able to inspire and show others who are going through it that you can do it. I don't know. I'm just rambling a little bit, but it's just really powerful. Yeah, that's all.
I love that for the surgeries. My dad just had open heart surgery. I think it was last month. I had mentioned to Shanti, but I had found out that there were like doulas and things that show up for people with surgeries, which I feel like, oh, that's amazing. I need it. And I feel like that would be great, even if the person had surgery, just to be able to share, like, hey, I struggled with this. This is something that didn't work for me. And you can share this. It doesn't always have to be just end of life. You can share things throughout life. You're constantly revamping your personal legacy. I think Suzanne kind of mentioned it where she was like, she's not here, but how she was doing all the film industry things, and it's like redirecting. Like you can redirect your legacy work anytime. It's constantly a fluid thing. Yeah.
And we do have this doula in Florida who has a program for transplant, organ transplant. She calls herself the transplant doula. And she actually has a training that she gives. It's Michelle Montgomery. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many areas that that we can serve. Kind of spinning around and like, where do I end up? But sometimes just following the next call, wherever it is, and winging it, you know, life is improv.
I love that. Life is improv. That's good.
Yeah. So, well, should we wind it up?
Did anybody else have anything they wanted to share? Okay.
I always like to sort of end with a little circle of one thing that you received from being here together today. Just do a little round to kind of pull it together. If people would like to do that. I just feel so comforted in this company. The warmth, the calm, the acceptance, just really enjoying that.
Yeah. Being around like-minded individuals, we all get to share all the different things that we've either helped other people with or that we're experiencing because we're human too. And it's just nice to be supported by others who do the work. Yeah.
For me, it's finding my people that understand what it is I like to do and don't look at me sideways like, why would you want to do that? So for me, it's like a comforting family that I can kind of touch on. And I love hearing everybody else's stories because every story leads to a lesson for me. So I'm grateful for each of you. Thank you.
I'm always pleased to be with other doulas. And one of my big passions really is spreading the word about what we do, and also the idea of making sure that people understand we are a profession, you know, professionalizing end-of-life doula work. And so I really like being part of this Florida group because I know there are lots of us out there in Florida doing this work. We have a lot of work to do and expanding our market, et cetera. So I'm very happy that we have this group. Thank you.
I'll go, as my dog is really yelling at me now to take her out. So again, if you hear her, I better take her out. But it's what Suzanne said. It's so nice to be and so comforting to be part of a community that understands and gets it. Because a lot of the time I get those sideways looks, and even when I'm, educating and talking to people about hospice, There's just, you know, some of those end of life objectives and objections and barriers and things that, you know, we encounter, but it's just nice to have a sense of community that understands. And thank you again for having me on this call.
For me, I enjoy the idea sharing. I mean, everybody's life is so unique, and how you show that in legacy can be so unique. And sometimes you go through classes and they kind of give you like 3 ideas, but when I get in calls like this, I know there's 3,000 ideas or 300 ideas. And it really prompts me to think and to think out of the box, you know, or want to think out of the box more often, let me say that. So thank you. Thanks for all the sharing.
So for me, it feels like when we get together, it's like, you know, we're in our tribe. And I know we all have our own little tribes where we come from, but they don't always understand what we're talking about. And I think we've all kind of touched on it. Like, you know, we can talk about what we do and what our passions are, and we just are, we're looked at like, you know, we have a third eye on our forehead. People don't understand. So it's nice when we get together, we can just talk about all this stuff and learn from each other. And it feels nice, and, you know, like a stronger bond of community.
I don't know about how many of you do it, but anytime I mention doula, everybody instantly thinks I'm a birth doula. And I'm like, nope, not for me. The
That
other
happens.
direction.
I got
And then when I
started.
tell them, no, it's only for the death part, and they're like, wait, you do what?
Right.
Yep. I
It's
got
your
Right.
twin, your other twin does the birth stuff.
now, or it's
Shelly, aren't you trained as both?
I am. I got started as a birth doula, so a lot of
Mhm.
people were very confused about that. But now when I say end of life doula, they kind of go, "Oh, I don't know if I can do that." And I was like, "No one asked you to. You're okay. Don't worry. Bring it down. You're okay."
That's what I'm here for.
Exactly. Like, I can't do that. I'm like, "That's okay. No one's making you. You're okay. That's why we're here. You're fine." Funny.
Right. All right. Well, I want to just thank everyone for being here.